The first thing I noticed was the silence. No crying. No babbling. No tiny hands slapping the crib rail. Just nothing. I stood frozen in the doorway, staring at the empty crib, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Then my phone rang. A woman's voice said calmly, "Your baby is safe with us. You're not her real mother anyway." That was the moment I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was kidnapping. Our HOA community looked peaceful from the outside. White buildings. Trimmed grass. Security signs at every entrance. They advertised it as family-friendly. But what they really meant was controlled. Rules about noise. Rules about visitors. Rules about how long a stroller could be left outside. And at the center of it all, horror. Her name didn't matter. Everyone just called her that HOA woman. Always watching. Always reporting. Always judging. She had questioned my motherhood from day one. Is she adopted? Are you the babysitter? You don't look like her mother. I laughed it off. I shouldn't have. My daughter was 1 year old. Soft curls. Big curious eyes. A laugh that filled the room. She knew my voice. She knew my smell. She reached for me instinctively. I was her mother in every way that mattered. But to Karen, I didn't fit her idea of one. It started small. Karen knocked on my door one afternoon. "I need to verify guardianship," she said, holding a clipboard. I thought it was a joke. "You need what?" I asked. She smiled thinly. "We've had reports. You don't resemble the child." I shut the door. That should have been the end. It wasn't. I stepped out to take the trash down the hall. 30 seconds. That's all. When I came back, the door was open. The stroller was gone. The crib was empty. I screamed my daughter's name. Nothing. I ran into the hallway. Neighbors stared. Someone said, "The HOA lady took her." My legs nearly gave out. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Karen's voice was calm. Controlled. "There's been a concern raised about the child's safety." I shouted. "Where is my baby?" She replied coldly. "You're not listed as her biological mother in any HOA documentation." I felt dizzy. "She's 1 year old," I cried. "She needs me." Karen paused. Then said the words that still haunt me. "If you're really her mother, you can prove it." Karen believed she had power. HOA power. She believed rules outweighed law. She believed she could decide who deserved a child. And she was wrong. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I called the police. And as the dispatcher listened, my voice shaking, I said, "My baby has been taken. The HOA president claims I'm not her real mother." The dispatcher went quiet. Then said, "Ma'am, stay on the line." I stood in my living room, phone pressed to my ear, barely breathing. The dispatcher kept asking questions. "What is your address? How old is the child? Who took her?" My hands were shaking so badly I had to sit on the floor. 1 year old, I whispered. "She's just a baby." Outside my door, neighbors gathered. Some looked shocked. Others looked uncomfortable, like they already knew something was wrong but didn't want to get involved. That's how fear spreads in places like this. Karen didn't take my daughter far. She took her to the HOA community office. I found that out when one of the neighbors quietly leaned down and said, "She went toward the office, with your baby." My heart dropped. The HOA office was supposed to handle parking permits and landscaping complaints. Not children. I didn't wait for the police. I ran. Barefoot. Heart racing. Mind screaming. When I reached the HOA office, the door was locked. Through the glass, I could see Karen holding my daughter. My baby was crying. Her tiny face was red. Her arms reached toward the door. Toward me. I banged on the glass. Give her back. Karen didn't flinch. She turned away from me and rocked my daughter gently, like she owned her. Then she unlocked the door, just enough to speak. Karen stepped into the doorway, blocking my view. You're upsetting the child, she said calmly. I lost it. You kidnapped her. She raised an eyebrow. This is a temporary protective action under HOA authority. I stared at her. You don't have authority over children. She smiled. We do when residents violate community standards. Karen genuinely believed this. She believed HOA bylaws could override law enforcement. She believed suspicion was proof. She believed she was saving my child. And that made her dangerous. Karen spoke loud enough for others to hear. We have reason to believe this woman is not the child's real mother. People gasped. My stomach twisted. She has no resemblance, Karen continued. No documentation on file. No registered guardianship. I shouted back. She's one. She doesn't need HOA approval to exist. Sirens cut through the air. 2 patrol cars pulled into the lot. Karen's posture changed instantly. Her confidence sharpened. She straightened her blazer and whispered to me. Now you'll have to explain yourself. The officers approached. What seems to be the issue? Karen spoke first. This woman claims the child is hers. We're holding the child until parentage is confirmed. The officer frowned. You're holding a child? Karen nodded proudly. Yes. For safety. The officer turned to me. Ma'am, is this your child? I stepped forward. She's my daughter. Karen interrupted. She has no proof. The officer paused. Then asked a question that cracked the entire situation open. Why didn't you call Child Protective Services? Karen blinked. We didn't think it was necessary. The officer's tone changed. Why didn't you call us immediately? Karen swallowed. The officers asked to see my daughter. Karen hesitated. That hesitation was everything. One officer stepped forward firmly. Ma'am, hand the child to her mother. Karen backed up. I can't do that until. Now, the officer said. Karen had no choice. My daughter was placed back into my arms. The moment she felt me, she stopped crying. She pressed her face into my chest. Everyone saw it. No one spoke. The officers exchanged looks. This was no longer a misunderstanding. This was unlawful detention of a minor. And Karen knew it. The senior officer looked directly at Karen. Ma'am, he said calmly, under what law did you take this child? Karen opened her mouth. Then closed it. For the first time since I'd met her, she had no answer. Karen tried again. We were acting under HOA emergency authority. The officer shook his head. HOAs do not have emergency authority over children. Another officer stepped in. You didn't call CPS. You didn't call police. You removed a 1-year-old from her mother. Karen's voice cracked. I was protecting the community. The officer replied coldly. No. You were kidnapping a baby. Kidnapping. The crowd gasped. Karen froze. That word finally broke through her delusion. The officer turned to me. Ma'am, do you want to press charges? I looked down at my daughter, asleep in my arms, exhausted from crying. Within minutes, HOA board members rushed to the scene. They tried to distance themselves immediately. She acted alone. We didn't approve this. She misunderstood procedures. The police didn't care. They asked for names, emails, meeting minutes. Every word Karen had written. Neighbors who had stayed silent finally found their voices. She threatened me before. She said she could take kids away. She always claimed HOA authority. Statements were taken. Patterns emerged. Karen hadn't just crossed a line. She'd been sprinting toward it for years. CPS arrived later that day. This time, properly. They verified documents, checked medical records, confirmed everything in minutes. The social worker looked at me and said softly, "I'm sorry this happened to you." Then she looked at the officers. "This child is safe with her mother." Case closed. Karen was charged with unlawful detention of a minor, false imprisonment, impersonating authority, child endangerment. Her HOA role was suspended immediately. 2 days later, she resigned. The HOA president issued a public apology. New rules were announced. Emergency authority was removed entirely. That night, I rocked my daughter to sleep. The house was silent. But I wasn't shaking anymore. I realized something important. Power doesn't come from a title. It comes from knowing your rights. Karen thought rules made her powerful. She forgot one thing. No rulebook. No badge. No board. Ever give someone the right to take a child from their mother. If you're a parent watching this, know your rights. Speak up. And never let fear make you silent. Because sometimes, the loudest danger wears a polite smile and calls itself authority.